The Pentagon, I think, is a great first beat for anybody coming to Washington. It's a great way to learn about Washington because it's a little town out there kind of all to itself. It has its own fire department, it has its own sewer system. And going out there, if you like politics, you can cover the politics of it. If you like hardware, you can cover the hardware. If you like strategic thinking, and you can cover that part of it. To me, it was the politics of it that was always so fascinating because I'm basically a political reporter and always have been. But it was a great place to learn how to cover a beat in Washington. To me, it was like a big courthouse. I had covered the courthouse in Fort Worth, and I realized when you're covering the courthouse that the best stories about the sheriff come from the county commissioners and vice versa. Well, when I got to the Pentagon, I didn't know anything about grand strategy, but I quickly figured out it was just a great old big courthouse. The best stories about the Army came from the Air Force, and the best stories about the Air Force came from the Navy. For example, if you wanted to find out how vulnerable land-based aircraft are, you didn't go to the Air Force, you'd go to the Navy. They could tell you all about that. On the other hand, if you wanted to find out how much it really cost to keep an aircraft carrier on station, you didn't go to the Navy, you went to the Air Force, because these organizations are all competing for the same tax dollar. And people ask, where does news come from? News comes out generally because somebody wants it out, or it's to someone's advantage to have it out. And when you figure that out, the Pentagon is like heaven for a reporter. There's always a story to do there, whether it's something about the nuclear balance, which we did a lot of stories all about in those days, or one of the stories I did that made the Pentagon the maddest while I was there is that in the officers' dining room, all the silverware, I noticed I was going across something one day and discovered they'd had to buy all this silverware, and I checked in to find out why. And it turned out somebody had been stealing the silverware in the officers' dining room. Well, it turned out that what happened was that a lot of the generals would send their secretaries, as they called them in those days, down to the dining room to get their dinner or their lunch to bring him back up so they could eat at their desk. Well, what they were doing, they were forgetting to bring the silverware back. They just somehow it would all accumulate in their offices. Well, I did this story, and it just made them all furious. But, I could do a story about some enormous mistake they'd made in planning for nuclear war, and they would understand that as fair criticism. But when I did that story about all that silverware that turned up missing, they really got out of sorts about that. So it's a wonderful beat, and I really loved it.